37 minutes and 35 seconds. For 27 years, that number defined the most famous climb in cycling, Marco Pantani's assault on Alpe d'Huez in 1997, untouchable. Until Tadej Pogačar posted 35:27 on that same mountain in 2024, the fastest ascent ever recorded in the Tour de France. But whether Pogačar truly produced the greatest Alpe d'Huez climb ever depends on something the clock alone can't answer. 21 numbered hairpins wind up the mountain, counting down from the bottom to the summit. Inspired by a mountain pass in Slovenia, these switchbacks create an arena where the gradient averages 8%, hitting 14% on the brutal lower slopes. Since Fausto Coppi first conquered this peak in 1952, these corners have crowned the sport's icons and destroyed its pretenders. To win here is to enter cycling royalty. Each bend bears the name of a past stage winner, turning the concrete into a monument. But the true energy of the mountain lives in its chaos. At Bend 7, the legendary Dutch corner, hundreds of thousands of fans form a wall of orange, smoke, and noise. As riders approach, this human wave parts at the last possible second, forcing them to climb through a corridor of pure, deafening passion. It is this sensory overload that makes Alpe d'Huez a sacred place in the Tour de France. Before a single second is timed, the mountain demands raw physical power alongside the mental strength to survive the noise, the history, and the sheer vertical weight of the road. To understand the summit, one must first look at the ghost who still owns it. On July 19, 1997, an Italian climber named Marco Pantani rode into these lower slopes and redefined what was humanly possible on a bicycle. Carrying just 57 kilograms of body weight on a 7.5 kilogram aluminum Bianchi, Pantani rode with a lightness that looked like floating. His signature style, hands gripped low in the drops, dancing out of the saddle for kilometers on end, became the defining image of professional cycling. By the time he crossed the finish line of stage 13, the stopwatches recorded an astonishing 37 minutes and 35 seconds. For nearly 3 decades, this number remained the golden standard. Yet comparing any modern athlete to Pantani introduces a direct question of fairness. His historic 37-minute run was timed over 14.454 kilometers, starting further down the valley than today's official timing point. It was a longer, harder mountain. This distance discrepancy means his legendary climb was an effort frozen in a different era, run against different boundaries. The solo authority of that ride left an aura of impossibility around the mountain, leaving a lingering mystery. What kind of rider could ever challenge a ghost? Tadej Pogačar dominated the Tour de France that season, rewriting the limits of what was possible on a road bike. Yet as the race approached stage 19, the competitive pressure was suffocating. Pogačar held a 1 minute and 45-second lead over his fierce rival, Jonas Vingegaard, a gap that sharpened the risk of every tactical decision. In professional cycling, such a margin can evaporate in a single moment of crisis. The blueprint from UAE Team Emirates XRG was clear: protect the yellow jersey and ride defensively. But Pogačar wanted more than safety. Under a warm, clear sky with temperatures hovering near 25 degrees Celsius, the environmental conditions were pristine for a fast climb. This created a quiet, intense friction between tactical caution and sporting ambition. The safe option was to shadow Vingegaard, matching his pedal strokes to secure the overall victory. The alternative was a gamble that defied the conventional wisdom of the sport. As the road began to rise, Pogačar faced a choice that would define his legacy. Was he riding to defend a race, or was he climbing to challenge history itself? 12 kilometers from the summit, the gradient surges past 10%, and the protective shield of UAE Team Emirates XRG dissolves. This is where a controlled race shifts into a raw test of individual nerve. Up to this point, teammates set a heavy tempo, protecting Tadej Pogačar from the wind and the early attacks of his rivals. But as the mountain steepens, the draft disappears. Every rider is suddenly alone with their fatigue. Pogačar shifts his position. Unlike classic climbers who dance out of the saddle, he remains seated, his hands gripped flat on the tops of his handlebars. To conquer these ramps, he relies on a specific gear selection, a compact crankset coupled with a wide cassette that allows him to spin a high, fluid cadence of 80 revolutions per minute. This gear choice shifts the mechanical stress from his legs to his cardiovascular system, preserving his muscles for the steeper ramps ahead. His face is already fixed in a tight grimace, sweat dripping from the vents of his helmet, his chest rising and falling in rapid, rhythmic gasps. 4 kilometers later, the climb reaches its emotional peak. As Pogacar enters Bend 7, the legendary Dutch corner, the road vanishes under a wall of orange smoke and roaring fans. The noise is deafening, a physical force that can easily disrupt a rider's pacing. Yet Pogacar uses the chaos as momentum. His cadence remains steady, his eyes locked on the road ahead. He is hunting the early breakaway riders up the mountain, closing a gap of over 3 minutes. When he catches them, there is no hesitation, no moment to recover. He delivers a brutal, seated acceleration, putting out a sustained effort near 7 watts per kilogram. His rivals try to match the sudden injection of speed, but their shoulders drop, their bikes sway, and they fall away one by one. On these final slopes, the battle is no longer against other men. It is a calculated race against his own physical limits. Pogacar crossed the summit finish line in an official time of 35 minutes and 27 seconds. This stops the clock 2 minutes and 8 seconds faster than Pantani's 37 minutes and 35 seconds benchmark, but a clean comparison requires a forensic adjustment. Pantani's 1997 run was timed over a 14.454-kilometer segment, starting further down the valley. The modern course, established in 1999, measures exactly 13.8 kilometers. If we calculate Pantani's average speed of 23.1 kilometers per hour across the modern 13.8 kilometer distance, his equivalent time is 35 minutes and 52 seconds. Normalized to the exact same pavement, Pogacar's effort is 25 seconds faster. Physiologists estimate Pogacar sustained roughly 6.9 watts per kilogram, with a 5% margin of error, pushing the absolute physiological limit of the sport. The stopwatch favors the modern era. In pure mathematical terms, Tadej Pogačar produced the most powerful, fastest ascent the sport has ever recorded. His ride stands as objective proof of modern sports science and carbon engineering, yet Alpe d'Huez is more than a spreadsheet. For many, Marco Pantani remains the mountain's romantic standard, a tragic champion who conquered a longer, rougher road with nothing but raw instinct. This leaves a timeless division. Pogacar owns the record, but Pantani keeps the myth. On these 21 bends, history has room for both. The debate is not about numbers, but what we value: the calculated perfection of the modern machine or the untamed myth of the past. As science redefines human limits, the soul of Alpe d'Huez remains a battle between math and magic. Which era wins? Share your thoughts below.